The soft beep of the detection system pulled Dr. Elaine Harrison from her half-sleep at the monitoring station. She blinked and straightened in her chair, eyes focusing on the display. The pattern scrolling across her screen was unlike anything she had seen before. "That can't be right," she whispered to herself, fingers already dancing across the keyboard to run verification protocols. The signal repeated. Then again. The pattern was too regular, too structured to be cosmic background noise. After 20 years at SETI, Elaine knew the difference between random space static and something with intent behind it. She reached for her phone with a trembling hand and dialed the director's number. "Sir, I need you to come down to Station 5. Now." Across the world, Commander Jack Powell stood at the window of his apartment overlooking San Diego Harbor. The early morning sun glinted off naval vessels lined neatly at the docks. His phone vibrated in his pocket, the special tone that meant a secure military call. "Commander Powell," he answered, his voice crisp despite the early hour. "Report to Strategic Command immediately," came the voice of Admiral Carter. "Top priority. Transportation is already en route to your location." The line went dead before Jack could ask questions. 15 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up outside his building. By nightfall, the United Nations Security Council had convened an emergency session. In a secure room beneath the UN building in New York, world leaders and military commanders gathered around a large table. Dr. Harrison sat nervously between two generals, feeling out of place in her wrinkled shirt, and hastily applied makeup. Secretary General Marisa Alvarez stood at the head of the table. "Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to share will change human history forever. 12 hours ago, we received confirmation that the signals detected at our deep space monitoring station contain a message, an alien message." The room erupted into controlled chaos. Voices overlapped as questions fired from all directions. Alvarez raised her hands for silence. "Dr. Harrison, please explain what you found." Elaine swallowed hard as all eyes turned to her. She tapped her tablet and a series of waveforms appeared on the main screen. The signal came from just beyond Neptune's orbit. It repeats a complex pattern we've determined is a language. More importantly, it came with translation markers, mathematical sequences that help us understand their communication system. They want us to understand them. She paused to let that sink in. "We've managed to decode the basic message. They call themselves the Galactic Council. They're an alliance of 27 spacefaring species who govern this section of the galaxy. And they're extending an invitation to Earth to join them." The Finnish representative leaned forward. "An invitation? Just like that?" "Yes," Elaine continued. "According to the message, they've been observing us for decades. They believe we've reached a sufficient technological level to be introduced to the wider galactic community. Or they want to assess how much of a threat we might be," muttered the Russian general. Jack Powell, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "Either way, we need to respond, and if we're meeting aliens, we'll need a ship and a crew trained for first contact." 3 weeks later, the newly commissioned USS Vigilant prepared for humanity's first diplomatic mission beyond the solar system. The vessel, originally designed as an orbital research platform, had been quickly retrofitted with Earth's most advanced propulsion systems. Dr. Harrison stood in the ship's communication center, surrounded by equipment rushed from research labs across the globe. She studied the strange symbols on her screen, the alien language growing more familiar each day. "Finding patterns?" Jack asked, entering the room with 2 cups of coffee. Elaine accepted one gratefully. "Yes, but something's odd. The language has layers to it. The surface level is what they call common speech, used by all council members. But embedded within it, I keep finding traces of another language. Older, more complex. A language within a language? Exactly. Like finding Latin hidden inside English. I can't decode it yet, but it's there." Jack frowned. "Is it some kind of trap? A hidden message?" "I don't think so. It feels more like an echo. Something ancient that's influenced their modern communication." The ship's intercom interrupted them. "Commander Powell to the bridge. We're approaching the coordinates. When they reached the bridge, the main view screen showed empty space. Nothing's there, said Lieutenant Ryan Garcia from the pilot's seat. Wait, Elaine said, pointing to her tablet. The signal's getting stronger. They're here. As if responding to her words, space itself seemed to fold open before them. A swirling portal of blue energy appeared, growing larger until it stabilized into a massive gateway. My God, whispered Jack. Another signal came through, this time with visual components. Elaine quickly translated. They're guiding us through. It's some kind of faster-than-light transit system. Jack took his command chair. All hands prepare for unknown space transition. Lieutenant Garcia, follow their navigation markers exactly. The Vigilant moved forward slowly. As they approached the gateway, energy readings spiked across all instruments. This technology is centuries beyond us, Elaine said, eyes wide with wonder. The ship entered the swirling energy field. For a moment, everyone on the bridge felt a strange sensation, as if they were being gently pulled in all directions at once. Then, with a flash of light, the gateway vanished behind them. Before them stretched a vast expanse of unfamiliar stars, and dominating the view was an enormous structure, a massive ring-shaped space station with ships of various designs docked along its outer edge. The Convergence, Elaine said, reading from the translated welcome message now streaming to her screen. The Council's central meeting place. Jack stared at the station, its size defying human engineering capabilities. How many species did you say were part of this council? 27. And where do humans rank among them? Elaine studied the incoming data, her expression gradually shifting from excitement to concern. According to their classification system, we're listed as Category 3. Meaning primitive but harmless. She looked up at Jack with worry in her eyes. They've categorized us just above pre-industrial societies. They don't see us as equals. Jack's jaw tightened as he watched alien vessels moving effortlessly around the station, some so advanced they seemed to bend light around their hulls. Then why invite us at all? He wondered aloud. On the far side of the Convergence station, two alien delegates conversed in private. The taller one, a Valturian with iridescent skin, gestured toward viewing screens showing the approaching human vessel. The humans have arrived, the Valturian said in their native tongue. Did they bring the artifacts as we hoped? The second alien, a hunched figure with multiple eyes, checked data on a floating display. Unknown. But they've been studying the transmissions we sent, the ones containing the hidden Julaxian phrases. And their lead linguist has noticed the patterns. She's already begun the process of separation and translation. The Valturian made a sound of satisfaction. Excellent. The Council remains unaware of our experiment. They believe these humans are just another primitive species to study and eventually absorb. What if the humans truly understand the Julaxian language? That knowledge has been suppressed for 50 millennia. The Valturian's skin rippled with colors that signified amusement. That, my friend, is exactly what we intend to find out. The human delegation stepped off the Vigilant onto the docking platform of the Convergence station. Elaine felt a slight difference in gravity, just enough to make her movements feel slightly off. Jack stood tall beside her, his military posture, revealing nothing of the awe he felt inside. 4 aliens waited for them. 3 were tall with blue-tinted skin and elongated heads. The 4th was shorter, with 6 limbs and skin that shifted colors like an octopus. Welcome, Earth representatives, said the color-shifting alien, its voice coming through the translation devices the humans wore. I am Zarn, your assigned liaison. The Council is pleased to welcome your species. Elaine noticed the slight pause. Condescension, perhaps? She glanced at Jack, who gave a subtle nod. He had caught it too. We're honored to be here, Jack replied formally. I am Commander Powell, military representative of Earth. This is Dr. Harrison, our lead xenolinguist. Zarn's skin flickered yellow, briefly. Yes, your credentials were received. Please follow me to your assigned quarters. They walked through massive corridors filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some appeared almost human, while others defied easy description. Many wore what seemed to be uniforms or ceremonial dress, marking them as officials or delegates. The convergence houses representatives from all 27 council species, Zarn explained as they walked, plus various observer groups and trade delegations. How long has the council existed? Elaine asked. The modern council has governed for approximately 15,000 of your Earth years, Zarn replied. Though there are records of earlier forms of galactic governance dating back much further. They descended several levels via a hovering platform. The Tatsiur surroundings grew noticeably less grand. These are your quarters, Zarn said, gesturing to a door that slid open automatically. The lower levels are typically reserved for Category 3 species during their initial integration period. The room beyond was small and plainly furnished. The beds and chairs were clearly designed with humanoid bodies in mind, but proportions were slightly off. The council welcomes you to explore public areas of the station, Zarn continued. Your first formal introduction to the council assembly is scheduled for tomorrow. A guide will come for you. After Zarn left, Lieutenant Samantha Rivera, the delegation's security officer, ran a scan of the room. No obvious surveillance devices, she reported. But that doesn't mean much with their tech level. Jack nodded. Assume everything we say and do is being monitored. Dr. Harrison, what's your impression so far? Elaine pulled out her tablet. They're treating us like children at a grown-up party. Did you notice we're the only delegation housed this far down? And Zarn's color changes seemed to indicate amusement when addressing us. I noticed, Jack said grimly. They've decided what we are before getting to know us. There's something else, Elaine added. The writing on the walls during our walk here, some contained those same embedded patterns I found in the original transmission. The old language hiding inside the new. Can you decode more of it? I need samples. If I could access their information systems or archives. We need to play along for now, Jack decided. Rivera, you and I will attend the formal introduction tomorrow. Dr. Harrison, see what you can discover about this hidden language. Don't do anything to draw attention, but gather what you can. The next day, Jack and Rivera stood before the Yao Council Assembly, a vast chamber where hundreds of representatives sat in tiered seating. Only 5 beings sat at the elevated central platform, the High Council members who governed the Alliance. Representatives of Earth, announced a tall, elegant alien with crystalline features who appeared to be the leader. I am High Counselor Varix. We welcome your world to this first step toward potential membership. Jack noticed the careful wording. Not actual membership, but the possibility of it someday. We thank the Council for this opportunity, Jack replied, following the protocol Elaine had prepared for him. Your species has shown remarkable progress for a Category 3 civilization, continued Varix. Though you have much to learn, we believe. Humans show potential. The patronizing tone was clear. Jack fought to keep his expression neutral. Earth looks forward to learning from the Council's wisdom, he said, the words tasting bitter. The formalities continued for another hour, various council members making grand statements about galactic unity, while subtly reminding the humans of their junior status. Meanwhile, Elaine had remained behind. Using tools she had brought from Earth, she was scanning the corridor walls, collecting samples of the strange writing that appeared at regular intervals. Her translation algorithm was beginning to find patterns. The embedded language wasn't random. It appeared most frequently around doorways, junctions, and what seemed to be maintenance access points, almost like directions. Her work was interrupted by a sudden commotion. Aliens rushed through the corridors, many speaking urgently, into communication devices. Elaine pressed herself against a wall as a group of what appeared to be military officers hurried past. She caught fragments of translated speech. Attacks on outposts, and Crack's forces advancing. Back in the council chamber, the diplomatic session was abruptly ended when a messenger rushed to High Counselor Varix. After a brief exchange, Varix rose. This session is suspended due to urgent matters. All Category 1 and 2 representatives will reconvene in the strategic chamber immediately. Jack stepped forward. If there's a security situation, Earth offers assistance. Varix looked down at Jack with something like pity. This matter is beyond your species' capability to contribute. Please return to your quarters until further notice. Jack and Rivera were escorted out while representatives from more advanced species filed toward what appeared to be a secure meeting room. When they returned to their quarters, they found Elaine waiting with excitement in her eyes. I've made progress, she said, showing them her tablet. The embedded language appears in specific locations throughout the station. It's not just decorative, it's functional. What does it say? Rivera asked. I can't translate it completely yet, but I've identified repeated symbols that seem to indicate directions to something called... She paused, checking her notes. The archive chamber. Jack frowned. Archives? Like historical records? I think so. And there's something strange happening on the station. Everyone's rushing around talking about attacks. The cracks. Jack nodded. Whoever they are, they've attacked some council outposts. The council is having an emergency meeting, Category 1 and 2 species only. They're shutting us out, Rivera said with a scowl. Jack paced the small room. If there's military action happening, I need to know what we're dealing with. Earth could be at risk too. Elaine looked down at her tablet, then back up at Jack and Rivera. What if we could access these archives? If they contain historical information, they might tell us about these cracks and previous conflicts. You think you can find this archive chamber? Jack asked. The embedded language is like a map. It's pointing somewhere in the lower levels. Not far from here, actually. Jack considered for a moment. This might be our only chance to get information while they're all distracted with their emergency. He turned to Rivera. Lieutenant, you're with Dr. Harrison. Find these archives. I'll try to gather what intelligence I can near their command centers. And if we get caught? Rivera asked. We're just confused humans exploring the public areas of the station, Jack said with a grim smile. After all, we're just a primitive Category 3 species. What harm could we possibly do? Elaine and Lieutenant Rivera moved carefully through the lower levels of the convergence station. The corridors here were dimly lit and seemed rarely used. Elaine stopped frequently to scan markings on the walls with her tablet. These symbols are getting more frequent, she whispered. I think we're getting closer. Rivera kept one hand near her sidearm, though she had been instructed not to draw it except in extreme danger. Any idea what we'll find in these archives? Historical records, most likely. Maybe technological data. Elaine paused at a junction where 3 corridors met. The embedded language is clearer here. It's almost like it was designed to be invisible to those who don't know what to look for. She studied the markings carefully, then pointed to the left corridor. This way. They walked for another 10 minutes before reaching a dead end. The wall before them was blank, except for a small panel, with faded markings. This doesn't look like an archive, Rivera said, disappointed. Elaine ran her fingers over the panel. The markings match a sequence I've been seeing repeatedly. She pressed her tablet against the wall and ran a comparison program. There's a pattern here that matches what I believe means repository, or vault. She traced the pattern with her finger following the sequence displayed on her tablet. To their surprise, the seemingly solid wall shimmered and became transparent, revealing a dark chamber beyond. How did you do that? Rivera asked, amazed. I didn't, Elaine replied, equally surprised. The wall must respond to the correct sequence of touches, like a combination lock. They stepped through the now transparent barrier into darkness. As soon as they entered, soft lights activated automatically, revealing a large circular room filled with crystalline structures arranged in concentric circles. Each crystal glowed with a faint blue light. What are these? Rivera asked, approaching one of the crystals cautiously. Data storage, I think, Elaine said, examining them. Advanced technology, but clearly very old. The design is different from what we've seen in the rest of the station. At the center of the room stood a pedestal with a smooth, flat surface. Elaine placed her tablet on it, hoping to establish some connection. To her surprise, the pedestal lit up, and holographic symbols appeared above it. It's responding to our presence, she said excitedly. These symbols, they're pure forms of the embedded language I've been studying, not mixed with the modern council language. Rivera looked around nervously. Can you access the information? We should hurry. Elaine worked quickly, using her translation algorithm to interact with the system. The holographic display shifted, showing what appeared to be a star map. I think this is working, she murmured. The system is ancient but still functional. Suddenly, the entire room came alive. The crystals brightened, and the holographic display expanded dramatically, filling the chamber with three-dimensional images. They showed bipedal beings somewhat similar to humans in basic shape but with elongated skulls and four-fingered hands. Are these records of the council species? Rivera asked. I don't think so, Elaine replied, studying the images. Based on the language patterns, I believe these are the Julaxians. Who? The creators of the embedded language. According to what I'm translating, they were the founders of the original Galactic Alliance, which eventually became today's council. As Elaine interacted more with the system, the holographic display changed to show massive space battles. Julaxian ships engaging in complex formations against an enemy fleet. These are military records, Rivera realized. Battle tactics, fleet movements. Elaine nodded, her eyes wide with surprise. The Julaxians were warriors, incredibly advanced ones. Look at these battle formations. They're executing maneuvers that would be impossible with our current understanding of physics. She continued translating the displayed information, her expression growing more shocked. According to this, the Julaxians disappeared approximately 50,000 years ago. The records don't explain why, just that they suddenly abandoned their position in the Alliance. And after they left? Rivera asked. The remaining species restructured the Alliance into what eventually became the current Council. But, Elaine paused, reading further. They deliberately suppressed knowledge of Julaxian military doctrine. They feared it would destabilize the peaceful coalition they were trying to maintain. Rivera studied one of the battle sequences. These tactics are incredible. Look at how they use gravity wells to trap enemy fleets, then strike from multiple vectors simultaneously. It's more than just tactics, Elaine said, accessing deeper levels of data. Their entire approach to warfare was different. They believed in overwhelming technological and strategic superiority, but also in understanding the psychology of their opponents. She continued reading, her voice growing quiet. The Council erased most records of Julaxian military history, keeping only their diplomatic and scientific achievements in the official archives. They wanted to build a peaceful coalition, not one centered around military power. So this room contains what they tried to hide, Rivera said. The complete military history of the most advanced warrior species in the galaxy. Their exploration was interrupted by a distant rumble that shook the room slightly. The lights flickered. What was that? Rivera said, drawing her weapon instinctively. Elaine accessed the pedestal again. If I'm interpreting this correctly, this archive has some kind of external monitoring capability. The holographic display shifted to show various areas of the convergence station. One section was engulfed in flames and debris. The station is under attack, Rivera said grimly. The cracks must have reached the convergence. Another explosion, closer this time, rocked the chamber. The crystalline structures vibrated but held firm. We need to find Commander Powell and get back to the Vigilant, Rivera said urgently. Elaine hesitated, looking at the vast array of data crystals surrounding them. This knowledge, we can't just leave it. The Julaxian military doctrine could be vital for Earth's defense, especially if we're now facing threats like the cracks. Rivera considered this, then nodded. Can you download it? Not all of it. There's too much data. Elaine studied the crystals. But these seem to be self-contained units. We might be able to take some of them with us. They worked quickly, carefully removing several of the smaller crystals and placing them in Elaine's carry bag. As they did, the station's emergency systems activated, and alien voices echoed through hidden speakers. Evacuation order for all levels. Hostile forces have breached sectors 7 through 12. Proceed to emergency vessels immediately. Rivera tapped her communication device. Commander Powell, do you read me? After a moment of static, Jack's voice came through. Rivera, where are you? Lower-level archives with Dr. Harrison. The station is under attack. I know. Get to Docking Bay 14 immediately. The council is evacuating and they're not waiting for stragglers, especially not Category 3 ones. Understood. On our way. She turned to Elaine. Time to go. Elaine took one last look at the ancient archive room, then nodded. Let's go. They rushed back through the corridors now filled with panicked aliens, heading toward evacuation points. No one paid attention to the two humans or questioned why they had come from a sealed section of the station. As they ran, Elaine clutched her bag of data crystals tightly. If what I saw in there is accurate, she said between breaths, these crystals contain military knowledge that the Council deliberately suppressed, knowledge that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Rivera gave her a grim look. Then we better make sure they get back to Earth. Another explosion rocked the station closer this time. The lights failed completely, plunging the corridor into darkness except for emergency beacons that cast an eerie red glow. Run, Rivera said, and they sprinted toward the rendezvous point carrying their precious cargo of ancient war secrets. The USS Vigilant raced through space, its engines pushed beyond their designed limits. Commander Powell stood on the bridge, watching the stars blur outside the viewports. Behind them, the Convergence Station had fallen to the Cracks invasion force, its once proud structure now partially destroyed. Status report, Jack ordered. All systems operational but strained, replied Lieutenant Garcia from the pilot's seat. We're maintaining maximum speed, but the upgrades weren't meant for extended use like this. In the ship's lab, Dr. Elaine Harrison carefully placed the stolen data crystals in a specially designed containment unit. Each crystal glowed with a soft blue light pulsing occasionally as if alive. Can you access the data? Rivera asked, standing guard at the door. Not fully, Elaine replied. Our systems aren't designed to interface with this technology, but I've managed to extract some basic information. She displayed holographic images above her workstation, detailed schematics of what appeared to be weapon systems and ship designs, unlike anything humans had created. The Julaxians were at least 5 centuries ahead of current Earth technology, she explained. Maybe more, and centuries ahead of even the Council species when they disappeared. Jack entered the lab, his face grim. We've received transmissions from other fleeing ships. The Cracks have taken control of the Convergence and are pushing into nearby systems. The Council fleet is scattered and in retreat. What about Earth? Rivera asked. Unknown. But given the Cracks' aggressive expansion, we have to assume they'll target all Council-affiliated worlds eventually, including ours. Elaine pointed to one of the holographic displays. According to what I've translated, the Cracks were known to the Julaxians. They fought them thousands of years ago. Did they win? Jack asked. Yes, decisively. The Julaxians developed specific tactics to counter Cracks' battle strategies, but that knowledge was suppressed when the Julaxians disappeared and the new council formed. Jack studied the alien schematics. Can we adapt any of this to help Earth? I think so, Elaine said. But there's something even more important I discovered. She adjusted the holographic display, showing complex linguistic patterns. The Julaxian language structure shares fundamental similarities with human military communication protocols. What does that mean? Rivera asked. It means their language is uniquely compatible with how humans think and communicate in military contexts. Almost as if... She hesitated. As if what? Jack prompted. As if there's some connection between humans and Julaxians. I can't explain it yet, but the parallels are too strong to be coincidental. 3 weeks later, the Vigilant reached Earth. The planet was on high alert, with defense forces mobilized worldwide after receiving news of the Cracks threat. In a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Earth's military leaders gathered to hear the delegation's report. Admiral Carter, head of the United Nations Space Defense Force, stood before a large tactical display showing known Galactic Council territories. The latest intelligence suggests the Cracks have overtaken 7 systems previously under Council protection, she reported. Their fleet is moving through this sector. She pointed to an area ominously close to Earth's solar system. How long until they reach us? Asked the Chinese general. Best estimate, 4 months, Carter replied. The council races are too busy, defending their core worlds to help us. Jack stepped forward. With respect, Admiral, this may be a blessing in disguise. The council never saw us as equals. They classified Earth as primitive. The cracks will make the same mistake. And that helps us how, Commander? Asked a skeptical British admiral. Jack nodded to Elaine, who activated a holographic display showing Julaxian battle formations. We have obtained the complete military doctrine of the most advanced warrior species the galaxy has ever known, Jack explained. Knowledge that was deliberately hidden by the Council. Elaine continued. The Julaxians developed specific countermeasures against cracks' tactics, and their language structure, their way of thinking about warfare, is remarkably compatible with human military thinking. For the next hour, they presented their findings. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Finally, Admiral, Carter spoke. You're suggesting we adopt the military doctrine of an extinct alien species to defend Earth? Yes, Jack said firmly. But we need to move quickly. We need to adapt our defense systems, retrain our forces, and implement these strategies before the cracks arrive. The most critical component, Elaine added, is the communication system. The Julaxians developed a battlefield language that allows for complex tactical coordination that enemies couldn't intercept or decode. And you believe we can learn this language? Carter asked. I already have, Elaine replied. And it's easier for humans to learn than it should be, almost as if our brains are predisposed to its patterns. In the months that followed, Earth underwent a military transformation unlike anything in its history. Shipyards around the planet reworked vessels to incorporate Julaxian design principles. Defense platforms were reconfigured based on ancient, but advanced strategies. Most importantly, military forces worldwide adopted a new communication protocol based on the Julaxian language. To everyone's surprise, soldiers and officers picked it up with remarkable speed. What should have taken years to implement was operational in months. Elaine worked tirelessly with linguists and military communicators, adapting the ancient language for modern use. She noticed something strange as the work progressed. The more they used the Julaxian language, the more effective their planning became. It wasn't just a communication tool. It shaped how they thought about warfare itself. It's like the language was designed for perfect battlefield clarity, she explained to Jack one night as they reviewed defense plans. It eliminates ambiguity and allows for concepts we can't even express properly in English or other human languages. The cue. Troops are calling it war speak, Jack said. They say it feels natural, like they're remembering it rather than learning it. Elaine nodded, troubled by the implications. I've been running genetic analyses comparing human DNA with what little Julaxian biological data we recovered. There are similarities that can't be explained by convergent evolution. You think they visited Earth in the past? Maybe more than visited, Elaine replied quietly. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert. Admiral Carter's face appeared on the communication screen. Powell, Harrison, get to command immediately. We've detected cracks ships entering the outer solar system. They're early, Jack said, already moving toward the door. 2 months ahead of projections, Carter confirmed. Our defense network is operational, but only at 70% of planned capacity. It will have to be enough, Jack said grimly. At Earth's orbital defense headquarters, military leaders watched as the Cracks fleet approached. Dozens of massive warships, each carrying enough firepower to devastate a continent. They're not even bothering with stealth, observed a Russian general. They're confident. They think we're defenseless, Admiral Carter replied. A primitive species barely worth their attention. She turned to Jack. Commander Powell, as the officer with most direct experience of both Council and Cracks capabilities, I'm placing you in tactical command of our defense forces. Jack stepped up to the main tactical display. Around him, officers communicated in the adapted Julaxian language, coordinating Earth's scattered defense forces into a unified system. Let's show them how primitive we really are, he said, and began issuing orders in the ancient language of a long-vanished warrior race. The Crack's fleet moved toward Earth with overwhelming force. 50 massive warships arranged in an attack formation that had conquered dozens of worlds. Their commander, war leader Drak, stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the view screen. "Scans show primitive defense systems," reported his second-in-command. "Similar to other Category 3 worlds we have conquered." Drak made a sound of satisfaction. "The Council abandons its weakest allies first. Begin standard attack pattern. Target their orbital defenses, then major military installations." "War leader," called the sensor officer suddenly, "detecting unusual energy signatures from Earth's defense grid." "Explain," Drak demanded. "They appear to be Julaxian configurations," the officer said, confusion evident in his voice. Drak froze. "Impossible. The Julaxians have been gone for 50 millennia." Before they could discuss further, Earth's defense system activated. Hidden platforms around the planet revealed advanced weapon systems, but instead of firing directly at the Crack's fleet, they targeted specific points in space. "What are they doing?" Drak wondered. "Their weapons aren't even aimed at our ships." The answer came moments later as the targeted areas of space collapsed into artificial gravity wells, disrupting the carefully arranged Crack's formation. Ships that had been flying in precise patterns were suddenly pulled in different directions. Their formation shattered. "This is a Julaxian tactic," shouted the Crack's tactical officer. "Battle pattern sundered sky." Drak gripped his command chair. How could these primitives know? His words were cut short as Earth's defense fleet emerged from behind the moon, already executing a complex pincer movement. Unlike the bulky Council ships, Earth's vessels moved with surprising agility, targeting the now separated Crack ships with precision strikes. On the bridge of the EDS Defiant, Jack Powell directed the battle using the Julaxian tactical language. Officers around him coordinated the global defense network with efficiency that would have been impossible months earlier. "Third quadrant secured," reported Rivera, now a captain. "Crack's destroyers are retreating to regroup." Jack nodded. "Execute. Falling stone maneuver. Don't let them reform their battle line." Earth's ships moved in perfect coordination, preventing the scattered Crack's vessels from rejoining their formation. The battle language allowed for complex tactical instructions to be conveyed in just a few syllables, giving human forces a decisive advantage in response time. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Elaine Harrison worked with a team of analysts, monitoring the language patterns flowing through Earth's military network. "The integration is perfect," she told Admiral Carter. "The Julaxian battle language is functioning exactly as theorized. Our forces are coordinating at a level that would be impossible with conventional communication." Carter watched the tactical display as Earth forces achieved what the Council would have thought impossible. A Category 3 species was defeating the dreaded Crack's armada. "Dr. Harrison, I need to know," Carter said quietly. "Your genetic research. What did you find?" Elaine hesitated, then brought up a data display. "The Julaxian genetic samples we recovered share specific marker sequences with human DNA. The statistical probability of this occurring by random chance is virtually zero." "Are you saying they were our ancestors?" "Not exactly, but I believe they visited Earth thousands of years ago, and they didn't just observe, they interacted with early humans. Possibly even," she took a deep breath, "guided our development." In space, the battle turned decisively in Earth's favor. The remaining Crack ships began a disorganized retreat, their carefully planned invasion in ruins. War leader Drak's flagship, heavily damaged, limped away from Earth orbit. "How?" Drak demanded of his officers. "How could a primitive species defeat us so thoroughly?" "They used Julaxian battle tactics," his tactical officer replied. "Tactics not seen in the galaxy for 50,000 years. Drak stared at the retreating image of Earth on his view screen. "Send word to the Crack's hierarchy. The humans are not what they appear to be." 3 months later, representatives from the fractured Galactic Council arrived at Earth. Their ships approached cautiously, broadcasting peaceful intentions. The Council delegation was received in a grand hall in the United Nations building in New York. no longer treated as superiors but as equals. High Counselor Varix, one of the few council leaders to survive the Crack's onslaught, bowed slightly to the human representatives. Earth has achieved what none thought possible, Varix admitted. You have defeated a Crack's invasion force that destroyed worlds far more advanced than yours. Jack Powell, now Admiral Powell, stood beside President Martinez at the center of the Earth delegation. Perhaps your assessment of our capabilities was premature, he said coolly. Varix's crystalline features showed discomfort. The Council acknowledges this error. Earth is immediately reclassified as a Category 1 civilization with full rights and privileges. And what prompted this sudden change of heart? President Martinez asked. Reality, Varix replied simply. Half the Council worlds have fallen to the Cracks. Those that remain are barely holding on. Earth is now the only world to have successfully repelled a full-scale Cracks invasion. Dr. Harrison stepped forward, her tablet displaying Julaxian text. And you've realized what we're using, haven't you? Varix's discomfort increased visibly. The Council has noticed your military communications. You've somehow acquired knowledge that was deliberately removed from our archives. Knowledge you suppressed, Jack said flatly. The complete military doctrine of the Julaxians. It was deemed too dangerous, Varix insisted. The Julaxians were warriors beyond compare. After their disappearance, the remaining species chose a path of diplomacy over military might. A choice that left you defenseless against the Cracks, President Martinez pointed out. Varix couldn't deny this. We need your help, the High Counselor admitted. Earth's forces using these recovered techniques represent the only real hope against the Cracks hierarchy. Elaine displayed new information on the large screen behind the Earth delegation. Complex Julaxian text intermingled with human language. We have not only adopted Julaxian military doctrine, she explained. We've integrated their battle language into our command structure. All Earth's military archives, battle plans, and strategic communications are now recorded in this hybrid language. Impossible, Varix whispered. The Julaxian war tongue is too complex for other species to master. It took Council linguists decades to decipher even basic elements. Yet humans learned it in months, Elaine said. She brought up genetic comparison charts. Because we share specific neural patterns with the Julaxians, patterns that make their language uniquely compatible with human cognition. What are you suggesting? Varix asked, though the alien's tone suggested fear of the answer. The Julaxians visited Earth long ago, Elaine said simply. They shaped us, guided our development, and then they left, perhaps knowing that someday we would rediscover our connection to them. They never truly disappeared, Jack added. They just went home. The Council representatives murmured among themselves, clearly disturbed by this revelation. President Martinez stepped forward. Earth will lead the counteroffensive against the Cracks. We will share our defensive technologies with Council worlds willing to join us. Under Earth's leadership? Varix asked incredulously. Under the leadership of those best equipped to win this war, Jack replied firmly. As the Council delegation reluctantly agreed to the new reality, Elaine stood back, watching the proceedings with mixed emotions. The ancient data crystals had given Earth not just a means of defense, but a new place in the galaxy, unexpected heirs to the most formidable military force the stars had ever known. And in military bases around the world, human officers continued to communicate in the ancient tongue, their war archives now written in a language once thought dead, a language their minds had been prepared to understand thousands of years before. The Council wasn't ready for humans. They certainly weren't ready for the return of Julaxian warfare. And as Earth vessels prepared to push beyond their solar system for the first time, carrying strategies from archives written in a language once thought lost to time, the galaxy would need to come to terms with a startling realization. Perhaps the Julaxians never truly disappeared. They just went home.